folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you, as always. But first, we're going to take a few seconds to explain where my co-host is. David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. He is in the hospital tonight. So please say your prayers for him. He's having a little bit of heart trouble and stuff, and he was going to join us tonight. But I apparently couldn't get a cell thing through, or something happened, and he may be taking some tests or having some problems. I don't know which, but he may join us later on in the show. I'm not sure. So send your prayers out to him. Give a little thought. Think of him, and maybe he'll get better soon. The doctors, he's been in communication with me all day and has said that they're real nice there, and they're doing everything they possibly can for him, taking blood samples and doing EKGs, and tomorrow he's going to get some radiation thing where they put isotopes and he's going to breathe them in and going through his lungs and all that good stuff. So maybe you guys know more about it than I do. But he is getting taken care of, so there you go. Don't worry, he'll be fine. I'll keep you all posted if anything happens. But thank you all for joining me tonight. And as you see, there's this guy right there, and John Y. Nelson, and that's who we're going to be talking about. There's Elderberry. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Scotty Boy, let's see, Elderberry's in the house. Hey, yep. Send some loving out to Hawkeye, because he's in the hospital. Savagely, evening all. Yep, Scotty Boy, there we go. Nina the Mystic, thank you for being here tonight. Remember to go over to the store. It's in the pinned comment up here in the show, and get the new Milky Way stuff, some R. Wayne Steiger stuff, and get yourself a shirt or a book or a mug, or whatever you would like. But, do something like that. Support Nina and support us here at the Milky Way, because we bring you great shows and lots of information and some good guests along the way. So there you go. Yep, exactly. They're checking his lungs for clots. Yep, you missed that out. I said they're going to put some isotopes in there. Yep, he's a tough old bird, and he will make it through. But like I said, I will keep you guys posted right here. If anything changes, or if he can make it, or gets better or worse, I will post a show or a link or something, and we'll let you all know how Hawkeye's doing, because, hey, we're going to miss him tonight. Anyway. Yes, show the love, get some Milky Way. You know what, we're gonna have to get David tomorrow. Actually, is David Null's birthday. Hawkeye's having a birthday tomorrow. He'll be 72 years old, so go give him a shout out right here. Nina, for his birthday, you should just make a Native American Myths and Legends support David Null shirt. I think that would sell really good. Hawkeye Two Feathers shirt. I bet you that one would. I bet you everybody would want. Elderberry'd get one of those, wouldn't he? He'd splurge. Yep. So anyway, yep. If you're seeing this, I don't know if he's watching. I know he was talking about being on, but we will. John Price, 73. No, I think he's 72. Well, maybe he'd be 73, 72. I thought he was 71. He's going to be 72, but I could be wrong. Hey, I sent him a birthday card, and that's what counts. 72, 73. At that age, does age really matter? I don't know. So, anyhow, merch. Yeah, Nina. Yes. I'll have to let you know. I'll send you a picture or something, and we will get Hawkeye his own shirt. Yes, he's got a big following on his channel too. I think he's got close to 1,000 people on his channel, and everybody loves David Null. I think he's about half the show. Well, he is half the show. But sorry guys, there probably won't be a card pull tonight. Oh, I do have cards, but yeah, I got native cards somewhere here. But it will be good. And it's kind of hard to do a show without a co-host because I really depend on him to keep up the monotony when I'm doing some thinking or I'm changing screens or something like that. So bear with me, people. Tonight we got a good show for you as we do Legends 189. Yes, we're here for you, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. Happy birthday, Mr. David. That's right. Exactly. We're going to miss him tonight. Let's see, he pops in. I know he was going to work on it, so bear with me, and we'll just figure it out when we get there. Right? Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about John Y. Nelson. Now, who was this guy? And so anyway, we're going beyond the dusty pages of this forgotten history. We put a lot of thought into this monologue, so there's a lot to it. Yes, Chloe, I just talked to him this evening, and he got himself a room. He was waiting on a room this morning, he said, and hey, that's what he accomplished. He got a room, and now he's all hunkered down. So you gotta be happy for that. And wait a minute, here we go. There you are.
Howdy, Lee.
Welcome. I was kind of waiting for you. I'm thinking I'll come up, and I'm like, I don't know what happened.
I've been taking meds, and they came in at 9:45 when I was supposed to show up with you, and decided to give me meds and do all these other things. And I was like, yeah, I'll be okay, Robert. I'll be there in a few minutes, So, but anyway, I got my meds and everything, and the nice lady said that she would bring me ice cream for my birthday. So she's going to wake me up at 1:00 to take me one of my meds, and she promised she'd bring me ice cream.
That's really nice of her. So, good for you.
Anyway, hi everybody. Sorry I'm late. Where are you at, Robert?
I was just about to do my monologue. I just told everybody where you were at and that you and all that kind of stuff and what was going on. And now here you are.
Well, let me give a quick update since I'm here.
Yes.
And the latest, as most of you know, I've been having problems with my heart and so forth. And also, I have COPD. Well, everybody, COPD. Well, it includes anything that's pulmonary or breathing, whether it's asthma, pneumonia, or anything. And so I spent 22 hours in the emergency room until I got a room up here this afternoon at 4:00. So 22 hours in the emergency room, and those ladies down there were so nice. They made sure I had what I needed and kept me going. And when my chest hurt so bad, they would come in, and I still got wires all on me right now. And within 1 minute, they had an EKG on me and was checking me out. So what they found was after 4 of these incidents over that 22 hours is that my enzymes and everything for heart attacks are okay. My heart doctor showed up at 7:00 tonight and we discussed it. They have a test that I'm scheduled for in the morning. It's called a lung perfusion study, and you breathe in nanoparticles of a radioactive isotope, and the machine follows where the isotopes go in your lungs and go through your system, and then they also inject you with some isotope, and this machine checks your pulmonary system and everything, and to find out if there's any blockage. And so what they're looking for, to my chagrin, is a blood clot stuck in my chest. And they're worried that it's going to turn into a bad thing, and and give me a stroke. That's the last thing on my list that I would like to have, is a stroke, besides death. But anyway, so my Dr. Upong and I discussed it. He wants to do another heart cath to see if my heart has gotten worse, which would put me in the category of being able to have stents put in my heart. I'm at 62% last time we checked, and they won't do a stent until you're 70%. So you have to get worse and damn near die before they'll put a stent in you to save your ass. So, but anyway, more tests tomorrow, and depending on what the tests are, I agreed, because I've had 2 of the heart casts, and Dr. Upong's great. I didn't even know he was inside my arm the last time. I was looking, what? You're already doing it? It's that simple to me. So depending on the test tomorrow, then we'll follow up with the heart cath to determine if my heart's gotten worse in the last year. So at the moment, I just had all my meds, and she's going to bring me ice cream at 1 o'clock for birthday. She said, I ain't got no cupcakes or cake, but I can bring you ice cream. You got a deal. But anyway, the pain has been damn near unbearable, but I'm so glad it ain't my heart. But at the same time, I would really not like to throw a blood clot. That would not be fun. But that would make that would explain the pain that I'm having in the chest where it's at. So my birthday wish is that they find out what's wrong. So y'all pray that tomorrow and the tests that they do, they'll figure out what the hell's wrong with me, because I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's go on. Enough about me. So far, so good. I've got good care. Yeah, I'm in the hospital on my birthday, but she's going to bring me ice cream, so that's worth it.
Yeah. Well, good. Nina wants to know, you still smoking?
I swear to God, in these last 4 months, I'm trying to quit. I've tried the patch and it ain't working. I put a patch on, and then 20 minutes later, I was smoking a cigarette. But I'm still at a half a pack. You all can count on that. I'm at a half a pack a day or less, and I'm trying to make it less. But yes, I'm still smoking.
Yeah. Well, everybody's saying, Nina says her birthday wish for you is that you heal and have prevent further health damage. And Savage Lee says, we're all wishing you the best.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. Well, anyway, of course, Scotty Boy says, my heart goes out to you, David. So there you go. That. I know Chloe was here. Right, she hasn't said anything. Chloe, where are you? Anyway, okay, I guess we're going to move on. We're going to talk about...
let's move on along. I can't see the screen much because I'm with the cell phone, but keep going. Let's go.
You can hear. If you got any questions, just yell out, okay?
Okay.
So back to where we were. And tonight we turn back the pages, the dusty pages, and we're going to go right here to share a screen because you want to know what this guy looks like. He lived long enough to be in pictures, and he lived long enough to be in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, but we'll get that at a second. He was a man who lived for lifetimes or more lifetimes than most men dare to dream. His name was John Y. Nelson. He was born in 1826 in the Green Hills of Virginia, but the call of the wild hit him young. And at just 15 years old, he ran away from home. The same story we hear about a lot of those kids. And he ran straight into history. He didn't find the frontier, he became part of it. Well, captured or rescued, depending on who you ask, he was taken by the Lakota Sioux. And there, in their camps and councils, he was adopted as one of their own. He learned their ways and spoke their language and rode with them, not as a prisoner, but as a brother. That must have been really exciting. And for a decade, John Y. Nelson lived between worlds, part white man and part Sioux warrior. He carried a rifle with one hand and a peace pipe in the other. He was a bridge between two civilizations when the West was still wild and maps were still blank. Nelson would go on to serve as an Army scout for the U.S. Army, guiding troops through the raw edges of the Dakota Territory and beyond. He knew the rivers, the trails, and the stars overhead, and he knew the language of those who called the land sacred. He became a translator, a messenger, a scout, and he was well known for all of these things. He rode with legends like Kit Carson, crossing trails with Wild Bill Hickok, and serving under General Custer. Yes, that's the Custer from Bighorn. Of course, he wasn't there, otherwise he'd be dead. But John Y. Nelson wasn't just a ghost of the frontier. No, he was also a showman. Later in life, well, he stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight. He joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, dressed in buckskins and fringe, carrying his long rifle like a badge of honor, as you can see right here in this picture, taken from Buffalo Bill's Wild West show with one of the natives. I don't know which chief this is exactly, but there's his getup, big long high boots and the big mountain man hat, as you can see, his big long rifle in front of a stagecoach. You know, he went from a scout to a warrior, from a warrior to a scout to an entertainer. Crowds loved him. They saw him as the real deal, not some dime store novel character, but a man who lived it all. He was fighting, surviving, riding, and guiding, witnessing the death of an era and an uneasy birth of another. He brought the West to life under the electric glow of the stage lights. A living relic of a time now long past, and with a beard down to his chest and a 1,000-mile stare, well, that was John Null. He was, so we honor him tonight. John Y. Nelson. He was a mountain man, a scout, a soldier, an interpreter, and a front row witness to the raw, brutal, beautiful unfolding of the American West. And tonight, we're going to tell you his story. David, what do you think of that?
I wonder when he was riding with the Sioux, if he ever sang the song, "My name is Sue, how do you do?" No, but I'm sorry. But, you know, as a white man, obviously with a beard, you know, you could pick him out of a stand of Indians easy. So did he fight with the Indians against the white man, or did he not fight? Did he, you know, I wonder where his
he was taken by the Indians. You know, because it says in there he was taken by, like a lot of white young boys. The natives, remember, they tried to, you know, they had to fill their ranks, right? And because they had to fill their ranks, sometimes they captured white kids, children, younger children, and then they would teach them how to be an Indian. Remember the last guy, Herman, that we read the book of? He became an Indian, even though he wasn't an Indian. He thought of himself as an Indian. He fought against the Rangers and the white folks, and fought against the other Indians and stuff as an Apache. But this guy here, he was with the Sioux. So what do you do?
So that's my point. I wonder where his loyalties lie, because I could see where he would fight with the Sioux, where there were aggressive white people, maybe killing and slaughtering the Indian, and he was like, I ain't having this. So I could see where he could fight for the Indian against the white man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you're brainwashed like that, you're going to just fight whoever they tell you, because if you don't fight or you don't go with them, then you become the enemy. Right.
Who do you support?
Yes.
One of the things that all native tribes that we have read over the years is trust. No matter who it is, if you're from another tribe, can you trust me as a person? Or do you lie with forked tongue?
Yep. Well, should we go on with his life and find out what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just call him, John or John Nelson. You all know who I'm talking about. So Nelson was born in 1826, likely in the Virginia or Pennsylvania, depending on the source. When you go back that far, it's hard to trace him back. And what's certain is that by the time he was 15 years old, young John ran away from home, lured by the call of the great unknown. Oh, yes, young boys always have their nose to the wind or whatever. But he headed west, not with a plan, but with the raw grit of someone who refused to be tamed. Well, by 1840, he found himself deep in native country. He joined a group. It says he joined. He didn't get captured. He joined a group of Sioux. And over the next several years, Nelson was adopted into their way of life. He lived among them, learned their language, hunted with them, and even took a native wife. A fact often glossed over by most civilized frontier records. He wasn't just passing through the native lands, he was living within them, gaining their trust and walking a line between the two worlds. Just like you were saying, gaining trust, and I think this might have, I don't know if this is his family, not quite sure, but it might be. Anyway, then he became, in the late 40s, the 1840s, the fur trapping and trading stuff was kind of winding down. But by the early 50s, Nelson was seasoned plainsman. He worked as a guide, a scout, and an interpreter. I suppose he knew how to speak the Sioux language. That would make him very valuable. And of course, this was all across the Dakotas, Wyoming, and Nebraska, and Montana. Well, that was the Sioux, the Lakota Sioux's range. All of those states. We're talking North and South Dakota, up into Wyoming and Nebraska, the whole plains area. And there's a few other ones in there, too. So anyway, who knows? He might have spoke their languages. He wasn't a flashy figure. You wouldn't see his name carved in the trail markers, but wagon trains, the U.S. Army units, and explorers all owed their safe passage to John Nelson's knowledge of the land and the people in it. He could he could speak multiple native languages: the Sioux, the Crow, the Cheyenne, and he understood the complex web of intertribal relations. And that knowledge made him indispensable, of course, valuable. And he wasn't just a pathfinder. Yes. I mean, when you can communicate, between cultures, that is a big thing. And it was a bridge
Well,
between the cultures.
it's one thing to be able to speak the language, but as we have been, as we've learned over the years, there's more to the language of the native folk. There are impressions,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things that in having a discussion, there might be only 10 words spoken, but there's a whole book full of knowledge that's passed between the two people. And so
Yep.
white people would just, oh, it's just a word. But he would understand the bigger meaning of what the natives felt about the words, because that's a big deal. So anyway, yeah, invaluable to say the least. I hope he got paid well.
I imagine. I would imagine. I don't know for sure exactly, but I can imagine he was he got a little extra bonuses for being an interpreter. So let's continue. Well, they became. We're going to talk a little bit about the interpreter. So, in the 1860s, Nelson became an official scout and interpreter for the U.S. Army. Remember, in the 1860s and through the 60s and 70s, they were trying to, make treaties with the natives, and they were also, trying to put them on reservations and things like that. And in that case, during those negotiations, he would have been very valuable. Okay, so he was stationed at Fort Laramie. And we know there was a big treaty, the Fort Laramie Treaty, that was signed with the Lakota. During this time, tensions were rising fast between the settlers and the Plains tribes. Yes, because everybody was moving west. Treaties made and they were broken. Blood was spilled, and Nelson stood in the middle of it all. He served under Colonel William O. Collins, who often relied on Nelson for his understanding of the land and the native customs. Nelson also worked with Captain George Williford, guiding military expeditions during tense negotiations. It is said that Nelson was instrumental during the Horse Creek Treaty talks in 1851, helping to smooth translation between the U.S. representative and the gathered tribal leaders. The treaty, well, it was flawed as it was and attempted to create peace in a time of deep mistrust. Of course, the Indians didn't trust the white man, and the white man seemed to break every single treaty. Of course, it didn't help that the natives were being starved out at about that time. At the late 1860s to 70s, the buffalo were starting to disappear. The railroads were getting ready to come through, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So by the 1870s, Nelson, he had seen too much war and too much change, and the frontier he knew was vanishing under the boots of settlers and iron railroads. Isn't it amazing how a railroad and some settlers can, these guys were so used to having nothingness as far as the eye can see, buffalo everywhere, and then all of a sudden, people start coming through and they're like, this world's ending. So, it must have been really rough.
And as we've talked about, there were millions of buffalo on the east side of the Mississippi, and they destroyed and took out every single buffalo this side of the Mississippi. And then when they went west, they knew how to kill them.
Oh yeah, well, they had better weapons by that time too. They had the Sharps rifle with loaded cartridges, 50 cals. And remember, the buffalo hunters were deadly. They had
That's
those long rifles. They could shoot a buffalo from a mile away, and it also made them like in the Battle of Adobe Walls. The Indians are standing on a hill a mile away, and the buffalo hunters are just sitting on the roof shooting at them and killing them off a mile away. Being a native, I can't imagine the irony of that. You're thinking there's no way they can shoot. I'm so far away. I have a bow and arrow that shoots 20, 30 feet, and these guys are killing my people a mile away. I guess it's something that none of us can fathom. I mean, if you really look at war today, I don't think anybody out there can fathom the fact that how do I say it? That
That they were that good.
Huh?
That those hunters were that good.
Oh, no. I'm just saying is that today we have guns that can shoot a long ways, but the people these people were in war. That was their war. And today, if we went to war, I think the people that are here now, we wouldn't be able to understand how another country far, far away could be shooting at us when we can't even see them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And so it would be kind of the same thing. Like, there's no way they can shoot me here, and then all of a sudden they do, because they're shooting from 10,000 miles away, or 1,000 miles, distant. And you're going, I can't even see the enemy, but yet they're shooting at me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's what I meant by, the hunters had learned how to shoot and kill before they moved west. They had a lot of practice shooting buffalo and shooting Indians too. So when they got out west and everything was open and there were no trees in the way, man, they went to town.
Yes, absolutely. So let's continue on here. Well, the railroads came in, the buffalo were gone, people were moving in. There by the 1870s, a guy like him felt out of place. And what happened? He had a new chapter in his life. Nelson joined the famed Buffalo Bill's Wild West show as a rider, a sharpshooter, and a living example of the old frontier. And he toured across America, and he went to Europe, thrilling audiences with stories of buffalo hunts, Indian encounters, and the high plains survival. People loved him. His long, weathered face, buckskins, and deadpan humor made him a living symbol of the vanishing West. He later retired to Casper, Wyoming, where he died in 1903. So he lived a long time. Of course.
Yeah, he did.
So like I said, he lived long enough to be in pictures, be recorded, tell his story to thousands of other people. Like I said, here he is at the Wild West show. If I seen him there, I would be looking at him like he's the real deal. Here he is, got a deer on a horse. Like I said, when you get that old and modern times catch up with you, you get pictures taken you, which is awesome. You get stories told. Here's when he was a young man. See that, he's got a different rifle, but black powder versus the other one. But striking young man. He must have been quite the scourge of the West. Anyway, so what did he leave behind? He was a white man who lived as a native. How lucky can he get? To learn their ways and live with them when they're still in teepees and they're not threatened by dying every day or being on a reservation. He was a truth teller of the world, full of tall tales. We're going to hear a little bit of a story here in a minute. While others got the headlines, Nelson carried his heart on his the frontier. He had told it as it was. So, what do we got on all of that? He's just amazing. He had a tribe. He had encounters with the Lakota, the Crow, the Cheyenne, pretty much all the little plains Indians, I would say. So what are we gonna do here? I got a story for you about John Nelson, and let's see if I can pull this up. Give me a second. God, so much. And he was a good one for information because, you know, he lived long enough to tell his tale. And when you live that long to tell your tale, you know, you get recorded, put it that way, which is awesome. Right? What do you think of all of that?
Oh, I think it must have been an interesting time. And the fact that he could live between both worlds. And, but, you know, again, it must have been hard for him growing up with the Indians to somehow, you know, fight against them, you know. But I would bet you that he would try to convince the Indians, like, just go on to the reservation, will you, or you're going to get killed, you know?
Yeah.
He might have actually helped in that respect because he could speak to the Indian with his heart, you know? Because there's a lot to that. You know, there are words and then there are, you know, impressions and emotions. And he could convey that when he spoke. And he understood the peace pipe too, you know?
Yeah.
And as we know, that, you know, it's still today, it's very precious to the Native American people. So the fact that he carried a peace pipe with him in one hand and a gun in the other, to me proves how much he understood about the peace pipe.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense. Like I said, well, if he was interpreting and making, you know, helping out with the treaties, like it said, he learned their traditions. Where the white man, the generals that came in, they had no clue. They were like, here, we're going to sit at the chair, you know, with the table, and we're going to talk about this treaty, and I'm going to have you sign it, not understanding that the Indians don't have a writing system, not knowing that they would rather put a buffalo robe down, you know, and then sit on that and talk, you know, face to face, sitting on a buffalo robe, smoking,
right?
Right? At least that's what I get. What the custom is.
That's what I mean about knowing the emotions of the people. You know, well, the general says, well, we're just going to sit down here on the chair with the table and talk. And the native's like, what's wrong with the crown?
Yep. Oh, no, I totally get that. So anyway, let's go to the story that I got for you tonight about John Nelson, and let me take you back to a time when the wind was wild and the stars were maps and every man could get you. Well, you met it could be your enemy or your friend, but that could be the end of you. But in the spring of 1855, he was riding his horse alone through the country of northern Cheyenne, headed for the Powder River Basin. And I just finished a job, he says, guiding a supply train up from Fort Laramie, and my pockets were fuller than usual, and most men would have headed straight back to the fort, pounded a poker game or a bottle. But him, he says, I was built for sitting still. The prairie called, and I listened. I heard from a Lakota friend, runs from snow, that a band of Cheyenne dog soldiers had been spotted up near Black Hills, and the tensions were running hot. They weren't fond of white men riding alone, and I was exactly eager to meet them. But I also knew those lands better than most generals in Washington. I had my horse, my sharp rifle, a good knife, and 2 weeks worth of turkey. What I didn't have was a plan. I was 3 days out riding along a dry creek bed when I saw the smoke, thin, high, like a signal, but not like a signal I knew. I rode slow, quiet, up to the ridge and looked down into the hollow. And there, camped in the trees, were 2 wagons, burnt to the wheels, and 6 men on foot, hunkered down behind the wreckage. And they had that look of freight haulers and the fear of men outnumbered. I didn't even have to ask what happened. Cheyenne. One of them said before I could speak, they came out of nowhere, took our mules and burned our wagon and left us for dead. They were lost, wounded, and they'd never make it back to Fort Laramie on foot, not with the war parties roaming around like wolves. So I made a decision. I said, my name's John Nelson. I said, get your gear. We're going to ride out of here, or we're going to die trying. That night, I led him up into a box canyon I knew, a place where the rock walls trapped the wind. Any man approaching would have to come from the front. I knew the Cheyenne way. They'd watch us first like ghosts. They'd test us, spook the horses, leave signs, maybe fire a warning shot. And they did. And around midnight, the first arrow thudded into the ground beside our fire. No sound, no war whoop, just silence and death on a stick. But I didn't flinch. I stood up, turned towards the dark, and in a perfect Cheyenne I shouted, "We have wounded. We do not come for war. But I bring it to you. I'll send you to your ancestors." Silence again. Then the bushes moved. Out stepped a tall warrior, painted for battle, face like flint. It was Little Fox, a man I'd known from my time with the Lakota. He had traded, and he smoked, even hunted buffalo together years back. He looked at me long, and he said in a low voice, "You ride alone now, White Knife." That was their name for me, White Knife. A name earned in blood and fire. "I do," I answered, "but not for long." He looked at the wounded men, and then at me. Then he nodded. "You have one night. Leave by sunrise. After that, we come." Just like that, he vanished into the dark. At dawn, we saddled up, and we rode like hell. I took him through dry gullies, over narrow ridges, across riverbeds where the water barely touched our boots. I didn't let them stop. I didn't let them speak, only rock. On the fourth day, the smoke of Fort Laramie rose like a promise on the horizon, and the men cried, "I didn't." That's the thing about the frontier. You can laugh or cry after you're safe. When you're out there in the wild, riding the edge of death, keep your soul quiet, eyes sharp. Those 6 men lived to tell their tale. They never knew just how close they came to becoming part of the prairie. And that, friends, that was just 1 week in the life of John Nelson, scout, interpreter, warrior, ghost of the frontier. You see, he wasn't a hero, he was a survivor. A man who learned to ride with the wind and speak the languages of both peace and war. A man who lived between worlds and rode with 1 boot each. Well, that's not enough to make you wonder about this guy. I don't know what is. So, anyway, yeah, like Elderberry says, he was a communications expert. What do you think about that?
And absolutely. And the fact that he must have been one hell of a negotiator. You know, he knew how to speak the language, but he knew how to negotiate.
Well, that's the thing too, is I think from what I've read and I understand is that if you could speak their language, first off, that gets you a foot in the door. If you met up with them, and befriended them, at one time or another, like this guy. He knew this guy. He hunted buffalo with this guy. He smoked the pipe with this guy. You know, and all of a sudden now he meets up with him, and this guy says, "Well, you know, we were going to basically telling him we were going to kill these guys off, but since you're here, I'll give you this one chance to get them out of here because I know you, and
Right.
I know you're and I know you're a peaceful guy, and you will keep your word, and so we'll let them go as long as they're with you." And you know, off they went, and I think that was you know, that's a good thing. And you know, each time you get something, it adds up a little more. Because if the white man would have just yelled out in the dark, they would have just killed him, right?
Right.
Yeah, you know, because any white man out there is an invader. They're all invaders, right?
Right.
I didn't think I lost my sound. Can you hear me?
Oh, were you asking me a question?
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I lost my sound.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
Something went weird.
Yeah, something went weird. Yeah, I can hear a background noise or something. Interesting. Always something, right? I don't think I have.
It's always something.
Yeah. I don't know what I did. I did something. I bumped something, or I need that communications expert somewhere along the line. Maybe I don't know what I did, but I can hear myself talking.
I can hear you.
I don't know why that is. I can hear you. Well, I know you can hear me, but I don't know why I can hear me. Huh. That's weird. It's weird. Hey, there's Off the Hook. There's Off the Hook. Thank you for joining us tonight. Again, if you see David's in the hospital tonight, but he's still joining us. So there you go. Anyway, that's about what I got for you know, yes, Off the Hook. Hawkeye's in the hospital, yes. So send him love and prayers, and he might get better. And birthday wishes, because tomorrow's his birthday. I think, anyway, she says, love and healing energy. There you go. All righty. So, let's see, what else was I going to say? Anyway, basically, maybe I don't have an echo constellation. I'm trying to adjust things here. Sorry. There. Did that help? Nope, that didn't help. Things aren't working right. They just beeped out just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of irritating because I can hear it. Double talk here. So tell us the words of the wise from back in the day. What do you think those guys were thinking when the era that they lived in was ending?
Well, that's what I was talking about. He was one hell of a negotiator because he didn't know just the language. He knew about the peace pipe. He knew, he knew how to placate the Indian, and he also knew how to piss him off, So it's like he could turn around to his white brethren and go, don't do that. Don't do that, or you're going to get scalped, which helped with the white man because they were like, well, what did we do? They didn't understand the language. They didn't understand that, them shifting in their feet and looking, the natives were like, what's with these guys? We should just kill them and get it over with. We can't trust them. And so his famed claim to fame, which I could readily see, was he didn't know he didn't just talk to him. He knew how to communicate with emotion, and he could do it. It wasn't just to the Indian. He could turn around to the white guys and go, "Don't do that. Now listen here. You know, you do as I say, or you know, you guys are going to get killed. I know these people. They're not going to kill me." You know, so it's like either listen to me and pay attention to what the Indians are doing, and you got to respect them. And when you go through their lands, you have to respect their land and don't do nothing foolish. And so, but somebody that just knows how to speak the language doesn't know that kind of stuff. But he did. And I think that's what set him apart.
Yeah, and he didn't just know one language. He knew a lot. Right. So, you know, and you just don't pick up those languages in a day. You pick up those languages over time. So he must have spent time with all those tribes.
Absolutely. And so they had to trust him in order for them to trust him. You know what I mean? So he had to. I don't know what he had to do to gain their trust, but he did. And that act and feat alone would have made him famous within the Indians, because they would say, you know, hey, that one white guy over there with the beard, he's cool, man. He's all right.
Yep. Oh man.
I mean, and here's the story you just told. You know, for him to meet up with this guy, and we were just going to kill you all, but then we saw you and decided not to. That's a big deal. That ain't just a little thing. But you know, so they honored him and respected him in ways that the white man could not understand. And when he said, "Y'all wake up, it's time to go," you know, they rode long and hard.
Yeah. So still doing it. John says, turn off your speaker and turn it back on. I did that. I don't know if they can hear it. They can hear the double speak. Oh, anyway. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting how, you know, he did all the stuff. He was out there on the plains. He did the scouting, and then he ended up in the Wild West show, you know, and then traveling to Europe. And, you know, what an exciting life. But I bet he was, you know, sad in the end, because, you know, the way of life that he lived for, you know, 40, 50 years was gone.
Yeah, and if you could find a buffalo back in that, you know, so he saw the true wild herds of buffalo, and he lived to see them decimated. And so he was there on the prairie when there all of a sudden weren't any buffalo. And I wonder how that made him feel. You know, was because I bet you he killed a buffalo or two, and I wonder if he later on regretted it. You know what I mean? We killed them all off, and now look what we got. Nothing. You know? And, you know, it changed the plains forever, because, you know, the buffalo and how they roamed actually helped to keep the grasses growing. You know, they would tear up the dirt with their hooves, and it was like plowing up the ground. And so they, you know, they run along and chew up the ground, and that made the prairie come alive. It kept the grasses growing and things. And so when they killed all the buffalo, it changed the prairie.
It did. And then, of course, the white man came in and they plowed it. They farmed it with cattle. You know, they put cattle on there and grazed the cattle, because imagine, you know, after the buffalo are all gone, they're looking out here going, saying, well, we could put cows there. and they get, look at all this nice grass. Because I bet you after the buffalo were gone, the grass grew back really nice for several years before somebody figured out that they could put cows on there.
Yeah, something I heard today that's current, the United States, is that we have a shortage of cattle.
Yeah.
And that people don't understand that we have been importing cattle from Mexico to supplement the cows we eat in the United States. And so the one lady said, she said, I bought 2 small steaks and it was $32.
Yeah.
I bought 2 steaks in town last week and 2 small steaks that are still in my refrigerator. That's okay. They're aged beef now. But it was only $6 for 2 small ribeye. And I'm like, and she paid $32 for 2 steaks. So depending on where you live, which she was in from New York City, you know, you gotta have, it's gotta be imported. They gotta bring them in. They got feedlots. They got all these other things. But now there's some kind of flesh-eating fly that puts a worm. They bore a hole in and put this worm in cows and things, and it rots the meat. And you know, it's a big deal. And so, and I mean, this is current. This is not back then. This is right now. And so the reason that beef prices are so high is because there were a bunch of cattle killed around the COVID time because they found some kind of disease and they slaughtered a bunch of cattle, and they cut off the cattle from coming in from other countries because who wants to buy beef from China, you know? And so why is beef prices so high is because it's going to take 2 years for a young calf to make it to the feedlot. So a bunch of cows out there right now, but they're too young. And so it's going to take another 1.5 years before they're old enough to be slaughtered. So, you know, until this new generation of cows makes it, you know, and trust me, the cattlemen, they know about this stuff. But I did not realize how much beef was imported from Mexico. So it's like, you know, well, we hate them people from down south, but guess what? We're getting a bunch of food from down there. And so then the Mexicans want to go, well, you know, we don't want to let you have any more cows. So then Mexico can put, you know, the kibosh on the United States by just going, I think we'll keep our cows. So, you know, it's a big war about a bunch of stuff. But the biggest thing is American beef farmers, just like in industry, they sold us out to the lowest bidder. And instead of raising cows and stuff in America, they went down and found some cheap hacienda and put a bunch of cows down there, and you know, and then imported them back into the United States. Now with tariffs and stuff, ooh, that cut out a bunch of stuff. But it puts this in place. We as Americans need to grow our own food. Period. We got enough land. We got enough resources. We should not buy not the first piece of beef or chicken or anything else, actually, unless it's, you know, some kind of exotic something. We should not be buying chickens or beef or anything from any other country. We've got all the resources here in America. And I mean, well, I'm in the hospital now. I bet you I could go down Highway 37, not far from the hospital here, and drive 2 miles in the country and find cows.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but in other places you can't do that. So people around here, the beef prices are lower because we're eating the local beef.
That's true.
We're not getting beef. Now, if you go to Walmart, you're going to pay Walmart prices and where they're importing the beef. But if we go to the small store like I do, where there are still local butchers, that take their cows to market and butcher them up and then bring that back to the store and sell it. And so, which is what they've done all along. So I can buy 2 steaks for $6, where in New York City they cost over $30. Yep. So I'll stick with my local beef, which is good, and the price is right.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. That's kind of the way it is, really. That is. Well, there's no, you don't have cards tonight, and we don't have a story for you tonight, but unless you want me to pull it up and read it, but it's not as good as when you read it.
Well, I can't read one, but I can tell a story.
You go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, this is one that the spirit brought me years ago. And I was trying to find a story when I was doing puppets. I was trying to find a story, using turtle and different critters. And so I came upon this one story, and it was how crow used to be this beautiful bird. I mean, its plumage was just, it was like a peacock. It was so beautiful. And so one crow was out flying around one day, and he happened to look down, and there was a turtle. And he was like, "Ooh, look at that, there's a turtle. What is that critter?" So he flew down there and hopping around and pecking at it. The turtle put his head in the shell, and he was like, well, come out, Mr. Turtle. And the turtle didn't know who this character was. And so crow, remember, all plumage and everything, nice and pretty, and but arrogant. And so it's like, "Listen here, Mr. Turtle, look how beautiful I am. You should want to talk to me. Why are you hiding inside your shell?" And turtle wouldn't come out. So he flipping him around and pecking at his shell. And next thing you know, he flipped him over on his back. So there's turtle squirming in the hot sun. And crow was like, "Whoa, let me see if you can turn yourself over, And so he went over and sat on a rock and just watched the turtle squirm in the hot sun. And he was like, "Wow, will he ever, ride himself over?" So he went over and flipped him over, and the turtle tried to crawl away, and he was like, "Well, this ain't no fun." And he flipped him back over on his back. And so he crow was standing up there on the rock and watching this, and finally the sun was so hot in the afternoon that the turtle died. And so crow was like, "Well, this game's over." So he took off flying around the mountain and spotted another one. "Well, let me see if this turtle's any different." And he flies down and flips him over on his back, and basically in an hour or two, that turtle's dead too. So crow's like, "Wow, this is really fun." So that night he goes, and finds a roost. And during the night, some of the turtles had found their relatives that had baked in the sun, and they were not happy about that. So they devised a plan, to get back at crow. So they called their brethren, the tortoise, who was living out in the desert. And turtles were living around the mountain where there was water and streams and stuff. And they were not accustomed to the desert, but the tortoise is and was. And so the next morning, Crow's stretching, he's like, oh yeah, man, I want to go out turtle hunt today and see how many more I can get. And he had already killed a bunch of turtles, and the clan was not happy. So they devised a plan to where the turtles would lure Crow out towards the edge of the desert, which they did. So Crow's flying around, and they could see him up there. So they were like, wait a minute, here comes Crow. And they'd find a rock or a little hole, and the turtle would disappear. And Crow would go, well, that turtle was around here somewhere. Well, where did he go? Where did he go? And so he'd take off and fly around, and all of a sudden, a little further down, there's another turtle. Wasn't the same one, but he thought it was the same one because they all looked the same to him. So he's like, well, hey, turtle, no big deal. So he flies down, going to catch this one, going to flip him over, and all of a sudden, that turtle disappeared under a rock or somewhere, and the turtles could, camouflage well. So they're crawling inside their shell, and Crow couldn't find them. So he was starting to get a little ticked off about this time, but he didn't realize while he was being ticked off at where the turtles were, is that he was farther away from the mountain, and he was further out into the desert. So the next turtle he saw was Tortoise. And so Tortoise was used to walking around in the sun. That was just like a leisurely walk to him. And so Crow was like, oh, look, there's another one out there. Oh, so he flew out into the desert because he spotted this tortoise. And he goes out there, and he didn't notice, but this turtle was not just a turtle. He didn't know it was a tortoise, but it was a lot bigger, a lot heavier. And so he went out there pecking on this tortoise, and the tortoise was like, come on, leave me alone. And he kept walking further out into the desert, nice and slow, plodding along. And Crow's tapping, and come on, trying to flip him over. And Tortoise was just having his way with him, like, ha, 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 and it kept moving out further out into the desert. And to where, now it's past high noon. And Crow looks around, and he can barely see the mountain in the distance. But he's not sure if it was his mountain, because now there are other mountains in the distance. So now he's screwed. He's lost, and he realizes it. So he flies up, and he's, looking out about the desert, and he's trying to retrace his steps. And the sun is hotter, buddy. It's in the middle of summer, and it's 120 outside, and Crow is flapping his wings, and it's hot, and he lands, and and he's looking for water, and there isn't any. And Tortoise is still moving out into the desert. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. Well, the sun was so hot, it started to fry his feathers. And so his beautiful plumage was slowly turning to dark and to browns and actually black. It was burning, his feathers to shreds. And so he was flying up, and he tried to fly up higher, but his wings and everything had changed, and he'd lost a lot of feathers, so he couldn't fly as high. And the sun was so hot, it was burning him more. So the next thing you know, he's down on the ground, he's looking for shade. And all he can find is the shade of this cactus. And he's hunkered down at the base of this cactus, shivering, and his feathers have all turned black. And he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to get back. He doesn't know where he is to go back. So all of a sudden, he's hiding behind this cactus, and Tortoise comes walking by. And Crow's like, Turtle, you got to help me. He goes, I'm not a turtle, I'm a tortoise. And I understand that you have killed a bunch of my cousins. And what do you think about that? Oh, well, I didn't know. I was just having fun. And so Tortoise said, well, I'm just having fun too. And he said, if you want to survive, you should follow me. So Crow was like, but what should I do? And he goes, well, if you want to make amends and swear that you'll never do this again, if you follow me, I can save you. So Crow was like, man, I don't know. Maybe I can I'll tell him I'll go along with him, and I'll do this. And then when I get the chance, I'll flip him over. So he was okay, I'll go along with this. So Tortoise heading out into the desert even further. Crow's like jumping from cactus to cactus, trying to stay out of the bright sun. And all of a sudden, Tortoise disappears. And Crow looks around and goes, where did he go? He was just here a second ago. And Tortoise sticks his head out of a tunnel that he had built and dug. He had burrowed underground. And that was where his den was. That was his home. So he came back out, stuck his head out of this hole in the ground and said, if you want to survive, you should come with me. And Crow's like, what? Go underground? Are you serious? And Tortoise was like, if you want to get out of that noonday sun, you better follow me. So Tortoise turned around, went back, into his hole in the ground, and Crow thought about it. He's like, man, I don't know where I am. What do I do? So he said, okay. He made up the decision to go ahead and follow him. So he ducked down and went into this burrow that was dark, and he went in just a little ways, and it lightened up, and it was roomy in there. And it was like, well, you live here? And he was like, yeah, our kind of the tortoise, we've lived out here in the deserts, forever, as long as we can remember. Our story goes back to the main, to Turtle Island. And we're here to protect the plants and stuff. And I take care of the cactuses, and they give me water and food and nourishment. And, and Crow's like, food, water, I'm dying of thirst here. And so Tortoise gave him some cactus that was sweet and juicy. And he was like, you're eating a cactus with all the spines on it and everything? And Tortoise was like, yeah, you just got to know how to get them. And so Crow all of a sudden learned that this tortoise had a whole lot more going for him than just some critter that was rolling around on the ground, to his own, delight that he would flip over and watch them squirm and die. So now he's starting to think, wait a minute, this guy knows more than he looks. So he's licking his wounds, and he's out of the sun, and he's got some nourishment from the cactus. And Crow was like, you're pretty smart here, Mr. Tortoise. And where did you learn these things? And he goes, well, Mother Earth taught us, because I'm an ancestor from Turtle Island, and we know many things. We know the pathways of the stars. And Crow was like, pathway, stars? What are you talking about? And Tortoise was like, well, if you want to go home, I can show you the way home, but we've got to wait until it's good and dark. And the sun's down, and so neither of us will, be cooked by the sun. So Crow rested in the hovel under the ground, and it got past dark, and Tortoise went outside and ventured and looked up at the stars and said, yeah, the pathway is coming out. I can see it now. And Crow came out and looked up and said, I don't see no pathway. And Tortoise was like, but look at that section right up there with all the stars in it. See how thick those stars are? Yeah, that's the Milky Way. And if we follow that path, it will take us back to the mountain where you came from. And Crow was like, ah, come on, you're kidding. How can you look up at the stars in the sky and it show you the way? Tortoise was like, well, follow me and I'll get you home. So Crow was being obstinate, and he was like, this guy don't really know anything, but what's he got to lose? So he decides he's tired and he's going to rest on Tortoise's back. So Tortoise carries him along. The Crow by this time has lost a lot of weight and his feathers are all blackened and, he's barely alive and he's, just barely hanging on to the Tortoise. And the Tortoise is like, how do you ever get anywhere? You're so slow and plodding. And that's why I flipped over your cousins. They were so slow and everything. I could just toy with them. And Tortoise was like, well, that's how we can live a long time. We're slow and methodical, and Mother Earth teaches us like that pathway in the stars. So now Crow's really like, maybe I've made a mistake. So all through the night, the stars are changing, and the sky is moving. And Tortoise is telling you about the different stars and where they come from and where, the Turtle Island came from and so Crow's getting one hell of a history lesson and he's paying attention. So all through the night, Tortoise is just plodding along, and all through the night, Crow's just barely hanging on, and it's starts to get light in the eastern sky. And Tortoise was like, well, we're almost there. And Crow still can't see anything. It's dark and everything is just shadows. But as it gets light, he sees there's a big mountain in front of him. And the desert, when he turns, is behind him. And so all night long, Tortoise had slowly plodded through the darkness, following the stars, and went back to the mountain where Crow was from. And Crow was like, it wasn't quite light. And Tortoise looked at him and said, listen, Crow, you have a chance to change your evil ways. And I was kind. You killed my brethren, our cousins, and I could have, maybe should have left you out in the desert to just die. The Creator came to me and the Great Spirit spoke to me and said that I must save you. I must teach you a lesson, and that I must teach you about the pathways in the stars. And Crow was flabbergasted, like, who's this Great Spirit character? And Tortoise said, well, you have to be still and you have to listen. And so Crow was always calling, and he'd never sat still long enough to hear anything but his own mouth. So as the sun was starting to come up and the world was starting to get bright, Crow closed his eyes and just listened for the first time ever. And he heard a voice inside of him. And Crow was like, what did you say, Tortoise? Tortoise said, I didn't say anything. Crow said, well, I just heard you speak to me. Tortoise said, no, that's the Great Spirit. What? Yeah, that's the Creator. You got to listen. And so Crow was amazed. He was like, wait a minute, I've never heard this before. And who's he talking to? And Tortoise said, he's talking to you, just as he's been talking to me. And the Creator and the Great Spirit has told me that I must teach you these things. And I must save you instead of letting you die. But now it's up to you. What do you decide, Crow? And Crow was like, but I've never, that's the Great Spirit. Yes. You've never listened? No. He created you. He gave you all those beautiful feathers. And Crow looked at his arms and everything. He said, but my beautiful feathers are gone. And Tortoise said, that's the lesson from the Creator. You're still alive, but your feathers have changed. You're no longer that beautiful, proud bird with all the beautiful plumage. Now you're just a dark bird, nondescript. Nobody is going to think anything of you. There's nothing special about you anymore. If you want to be special, then you'll have to listen to the Creator, and the Creator will teach you. And Crow was just sitting there going, man, I just can't believe this. So, but Tortoise said, okay, it's time for me to go. I have a long journey back to my hovel in the ground. And Crow, I hope you've learned a lesson. And Tortoise turned around and headed back out into the desert. And Crow was like, wait a minute, wait, you have more to teach me. And Tortoise said, follow the stars at night, follow the path, and you will find me again if you wish to learn more. And Crow was like, the pathway, and he looked at the stars, but as the sky started to get bright, he couldn't see the path. And Tortoise said, the path will come out at night, and only those who know it will be able to follow it. Do you know it, Crow? And Crow was like, teach me more. And he said, follow the path at night, and the Creator will teach you. So the sun came up, Tortoise headed back out in the desert, and Crow sat there for the longest time. He was home. How did that tortoise walk all through the night without being able to see? It was pitch black. There was no moon. How did he get him back to the... So he thought to himself, Tortoise is very smart. Tortoise knows about this, the pathways in the sky and with the stars. He knows the history of the stars and of the planets. He didn't even know there was a such thing as a planet. And so Crow decided that he would change his ways. And so he became friends with the Turtle Clan and apologized. And from that day forward, Crow never grew his beautiful plumage again. But the iridescence of the crow's feathers in the sunlight will show the colors of the rainbow. And Crow had went back many times following that pathway in the sky at night and continued to learn from the tortoise about Mother Earth and about Turtle Island. And it was his job from then on to pass it along to his kinfolk and to teach all of the other birds not to turn turtles over, that they were very valuable and they knew the old ways. And the only way for birds and animals to get along together was to learn the old ways and live by them. And so that's the end of the story. Crow changed his ways, but never again regained his beautiful plumage. So anyway, Tortoise taught him a lesson, and so did the Great Spirit. So, you know, I was trying to think of what could I tell you, you know, remembering all the characters in the book. What animal can I tell you about? Well, Tortoise came to mind, Turtle and Turtle Island, and also Crow. And Crow's always caw, 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 caw. He's always listening for something else. And I think it was Crow that was one of the keepers of the magic. And so in Tortoise, of course, the Turtle Clan, you know, they are from Lemuria, and they were from the original Turtle Island. So, you know, I've got a box turtle that lives right by the house, and he comes out and eats cat food out of the cat food dish with the cats. And a beautiful box turtle. with the yellow orange streaks on his face, and beautiful turtle. But he's out there eating cat food out of the dish with the cats. So even today, turtle still teaches lessons, and it teaches how a box girl can get along with the kitty cats and the dog. Duggar won't mess with the turtle. He go over and snip him, but he leaves him alone. So the lesson's still being learned after all these eons from when Turtle Island first came. So now there's a lot of stuff that people are paying attention to Turtle Island because the ancients are saying that Lemuria is going to come out of the Pacific Ocean. And with all the stuff that's going on right now, who knows? But so Turtle Island is still very active, and we must, we don't, must is a hard word, but we really ought to think about Turtle Island and the respect that that's all that Tortoise asked for was respect, nothing else from Crow. Just don't flip us over, just respect us. So in this world and times, I'm like, there's Tortoise, there's Turtle, and there's Turtle Island. And in this world and time, we need to learn how to get along together. And for those crows out there that refuse, they're going to get their feathers singed until they learn a lesson. And that's the end of this monologue for tonight. From memory.
From memory is good. I tell ya. Can't go wrong with that.
So what did you think of that story?
I liked it. It was very good. I can't believe you did that all from memory. That's pretty good. You may be getting older, but your mind is still up there.
And that's one of the things that creators taught me over the years. That, there are some stories that if you think about them, you're not going to remember them. You have to feel them. You have to feel the emotional part of it. And when the story was brought to me, I cried. I cried because there was Crow not knowing and having fun and flipping over the other turtles and squirming and dying in the sun. And I've seen the results of turtles upside down, and it pains me. And so I'm like, so there are many times that we do things. And when I was a kid, we played with turtles and flipped them over and stuff. And in a lot of ways, I was like Crow. But there are still people out there that they do things without thinking. Not at all. Well, I flipped over a turtle and I watched him squirm, and then I walked away without worrying about, well, did he flip himself back over? Did anybody come to the turtle's rescue? Or did he die upside down in the sun? So people today still do things without thinking of the consequences. And we have to think a little further down the line. You got to use that magic from the Crow and from the universe and realize, wait a minute, if I flip this turtle over and walk away, what happens? Most people don't care. But it's when we start caring what we do has consequences further down the road. And so my advice to all y'all out there, we need to keep that in mind. What we do has consequences, not just right this minute, but further down the line. So, have a nice day. And, but just be mindful. Be mindful of other people and be mindful of other things. And what is, if you ignore something, will it go away? Or will the turtle be upside down and die? Or do we come back to the turtle and go, I made a mistake. Let me flip you back up over. unless you and me have a discussion, you know. And this last weekend, you know, there was that big memorial for Charlie Kirk out in Arizona. And in a way, they flipped over a turtle and watched him squirm. And then all these people showed up and said, wait a minute, we don't want to flip turtles over and watch them die. We have faith in the Lord. We have faith in our Creator. We have faith in our God. And regardless of whether you flip one of us turtles over and we squirm and die in the sun, there's going to be more of us that come along. And there's still something to be learned from the lesson. So that's enough.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much. Wise words. I'm sure everybody enjoyed that.
It all comes from the beard.
That's really good. Elderberry voices, yep. You've got tortoise friends.
And so I'm just in time. She's come in here to take my vitals and everything. And so right. I'm going to say adios and thank you all for your prayers and hope that I find out the answers tomorrow. That'll be my birthday wish. So I got 30 minutes and I'll be 73. So I love you all. Thank you, Robert, again.
73.
I'm sorry I was late, but
I thought it was 72, but 73. Congratulations.
73. Yeah, I'm 73 in 20 minutes. So I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Remember, everybody, be the frequency you want to receive. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Adios.